Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the last Shul lecture by my dear uncle, Rabbi Mendel Lieberman from Ashkelon, Israel. Today is a very special day. Today is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of Rachel Imenu. And one of the things that the Medrash tells us, Rachel Imenu was known for, and what she really excelled in, was her self-sacrifice for other people. As you all know, that she was someone who gave over. She was willing to give up her husband in order to make sure that her sister Leah would not be embarrassed. And it was actually because of that self-sacrifice that she made. We all know that actually says that Hashem promised when she asked of all the great Tanoi, all the great forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Moshe, when they all came and implored by the Almighty to take the Jews out of exile, it was specifically Rachel Imenu, our mother Rachel, who actually the Almighty listened because of her self-sacrifice and a willingness to help every single Jew. And therefore, with this in mind, I want to say it's my privilege to call up my dear uncle, Rabbi Mendel Lieberman, someone who definitely does a sacrifice, I know, for our dear Rav, for his father, someone who's very, in regards to both when he's here and he's not there, truly given over, which helps as well as also help our Kehillah, as well as also I'd like to also thank him for all the advice he's given me personally, as well as in order to help grow in regards to our growth in the community, and so on and so forth. Someone really given over to help. We all know of the great actions he's done and all the great speaker he is. So without further ado, I'd like to call up my dear uncle, Rabbi Mendel Lieberman.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Kabak, for this warm and very nice introduction. Also, thank you very much, Rabbi Kabak, for organizing this wonderful evening. Mr. Shem, I hope we'll learn something and try to understand the secret of Zayin Cheshvan, or maybe the entire month of Cheshvan. What's Zayin Cheshvan all about? What's Zayin Cheshvan all about? They tell the story about there was one time people used to live in these little shtetl, in these little towns, and they didn't have a permanent rabbi, or they had a permanent rabbi, and from time to time they would bring a visiting lecturer. And then on Sunday or Motzei Shadi, he would give his drasha on Sunday by day, or Shabbos by day. And then in the evening, he would go to all the houses and try to collect some money that people should give him. That's a drasha geshaink, so give him some money for giving such a wonderful drasha. In any case, one time the speaker comes to a town and he starts giving his drasha. After a few moments, he's a magid, and he tries to get the people really involved in drasha. He sees this person sitting in the corner, and this person is crying and crying and crying. No, the darshan feels that his drasha is being very effective and is really touching that person, so he gets even more involved, and he gives the drasha even with more excitement, or with more sentiment, really with more vigor, and he tries to give over this drasha, and the person is just crying to gisich mitra, and he becomes just cries profusely, and he has no stopping. Okay. The next day, he feels, Baruch Hashem, he made a drasha, he really touched somebody. Comes the next day, he goes around collecting money, goes to one house, comes out, knocks at the door. Oh, this is the person who was crying. He's going to get here a nice donation. He comes in, and he says, and he sits with him, gives a nice donation, gives him a cup of tea, and he talks. And then he asks him, what was it there, my drasha, that really moved you, that really took you, that got you just so involved that you started to cry? He says, I'll tell you the truth, Rabbi. I had a goat, and my goat died last week. And you standing over there, your white beard going up and down, reminded me of the goat. It reminded me of the goat, so I started crying. Because she got right out. And that's why he was crying. And that's what happens sometimes when we take a look at things in Yiddishkeit. Sometimes we take things and we see them only very, very superficially. And we have only a very, very superficial connection to the real deep message that there is there. And we sometimes only find, and we only relate to the superficial message that there is over there. And that's the same is true with the secret of Zayin Cheshvan. Because what's Zayin Cheshvan? Do we know what Zayin Cheshvan is? Zayin Cheshvan is the 7th day of Cheshvan, and that's the day when in Israel they start praying for rain. And why do we start praying for rain the 7th day of Cheshvan? Why is the 7th day of Cheshvan chosen to be the one to pray for rain? So the Mishnah tells us. There's a Mishnah. And the Mishnah tells us that it's Tesvav Yoim Achar Achag. It's 15 days after which Chag? Sukkot, after Sukkot. Kedei sheyagia ha'achron shebiyisrael lenahar prat. In order that the achron shebiyisrael, what does the achron shebiyisrael mean? The last Jew. Jews lived during the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, basically. That's when they lived in Nahar Prat. Certain Jews lived very near Jerusalem. Certain Jews lived further from Jerusalem. The furthest Jewish settlement was by the Nahar Prat, by the Euphrates, all the way near Iraq. And it took 15 days to get there from Jerusalem till he was finally able to get home. Well, superficially, it looks something very commendable, that the entire Jewish people are waiting for this one person who lives just so far from Jerusalem for him to get home. Wow, what sort of tremendous Ahavas Yisrael is this? What sort of tremendous connection and relationship is it between one Jew and another Jew? But if we think a little bit deeper, we realize that there's a little bit of a problem in this superficial understanding. We're coming from Yom Kippur. And the Torah tells us, and the Gemara tells us, and we all were in Yom Kippur Shul, in Yom Kippur on Shul, when we read what the Kohen Gadol prayed when he went into the Kodesh at Kodeshim, when he went into the Holy of Holies once a year. He didn't have much time there. He made a very, very short prayer. And he prayed for 3-4 things. What was one of the things that he prayed for? That Hashem should not listen to the weighers of the request. He asked that the kingdom of David should remain intact. He prayed that women should not lose their children, chas v'sholem. He prayed that the Jewish people should be strong and should not have to rely on any other nation. And he also prayed that what? That we have a community over here. We have a big responsibility. And in order for us to be able to survive, we need rain. And could it be there will be some time that there will be one wayfarer that's going to pray to Hashem, listen, the rain now is causing me some sort of inconvenience, and I can't travel along the way. So the Kohen Gadol, on Yom Kippur, on the Kodesh HaKodeshim, prayed to Hashem, not to stop the rain because of one person or because of several people. And here, we need rain desperately. Today, it's just like they did then, and maybe even more so then. Then they didn't have water distillation, they didn't have artificial watering of, they didn't have drip feeding of the plants. They needed the water desperately. And the entire Klal Yisrael didn't pray because this person is going to be wet on the way going home from the Beis Hamikdash. And even more so, if we're so concerned for the people that come and go to the Beis Hamikdash that they shouldn't get wet, we ask for rain till when? Till when do we ask for rain? Till Pesach. If we're so concerned for the people who are going along the road, when should we stop asking for rain? 2 weeks before Pesach. They all have to come to Yerushalayim in order to bring the Korban Pesach. They all have to come to Yerushalayim to be over regel, just like this person. Well, if you're so concerned with him after Sukkot that he shouldn't travel in the rain, you should be concerned for him also before Pesach that he shouldn't happen in the rain. But there's a deeper secret here, my friends. And we're going to try to understand what the secret of Zayin Cheshvan is all about. But here we see that Zayin Cheshvan doesn't stand on its own, but it's a continuum. It's connected to the entire month of Tishrei. And if we're not going to understand what the month of Tishrei is all about, it's going to be difficult for us to understand what Cheshvan is all about. Now, Tishrei, we have a collection of holidays. What are the holidays that we have on Tishrei? We have Rosh Hashanah. Why do we celebrate Rosh Hashanah? Why do we celebrate Rosh Hashanah? Hayoim, Hadas, because this is the day that Hashem created the world. This is the day that Hashem created a man. This is the day that the other Mauritian said, that this is the day that he crowned that the Kadosh Baruch Hu should be the king of the world. This is why we celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Why do we celebrate Yom Kippur? Why do we celebrate Yom Kippur? Do we know? Because 120 days before Yom Kippur, Moshe Rabbeinu came down from he went up to Mount Sinai. And when did he go up on Mount Sinai? Zion Sivan. And he came down 40 days later, and what did he see? The Jewish people made the golden calf. And Shivosar Betamus. And so what happened? For 3 days, he took care of a couple of things amongst the Jewish people, and he went up for another 40 days to pray for the Jewish people. To pray for the Jewish people. He came down Erev Rosh Chodesh Elul. And he said, okay, Hashem is ready to give you the second tablets, and he's ready to forgive you. And so what happened? He went up a third time. Rosh Chodesh Elul, till when? Till Yom Kippur, Hashem says, Vayomer Hashem, Salachti Kidvarecha, and that's what happened Yom Kippur. And that's how we know that Yom Kippur is the day of forgiveness. Mari Shainim Berotzen, Achachreinim Berotzen. We know that Yom Kippur is the day that Hashem is going to forgive us. Then we have Sukkot. What Sukkot? Sukkot, we know, the Torah tells us, that Hashem took us in Sukkot when he took us out of Egypt. What's the connection between all of these things? Then we celebrate Simchas Torah. Why do we celebrate Simchas Torah? Because we finished reading the Torah, right? We finished the entire cycle. What's the connection, my friends, between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and we have Hoshana Rabbah? What's the connection between all of these holidays? Is there a connection? It's just maybe just like a chont, you take all of these things, we put them all together, and we have a wonderful month of Tishrei, full of a lot of excitement. Comes the month of Cheshvan, there's nothing. Only Zayin Cheshvan. And Rachel Ameinu's Yortzeit. But is this how it works? Or is perhaps there a theme that there is behind all of these holidays and everything that we do during the month of Tishrei? And perhaps we could try to understand it with a little bit of a mashal. There's, take for example, there's a mother. And a mother has 2 children. One child is Yelet Tov Yerushalayim. Everything that the child does is just good and proper. He does his homework, and he takes up from the table, and he makes his bed, and he always gets the best marks in school, and he's always throws out the garbage. Mamish, a kid, the best child that any mother could possibly want. And then then the mother has another child. The other child is a terrorist. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't take off from the table and doesn't make his bread. And every Monday and Thursday, he has to come to school to talk to the principal and to the teacher, and he never does his homework. Never makes his bed. Always sorrows from these children. Who's the child that gets all the hugs and kisses and prizes and candy? The other Tov Yerushalayim, the child who always behaves well. But what about the other child? He gets yelled at, gets punished. Is the mother angry with the other child? Of course she's angry with the child. Really angry? Really angry. But what happened one night? Both children were sleeping in bed. and all of a sudden a fire breaks out at home. Which of the two children do you think that the mother is going to save first? The one that behaves well, or the one that doesn't behave well? Which of the two mothers? Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Why? Because when this fire broke out, this deep internal relationship that there is between the mother and the child is revealed. A relationship that transcends action. A relationship in which action, how you behave, is not important. It's something which stems from a much deeper level and a much deeper place that is found within the person, between the two people that have this very unique and special relationship. Was the mother angry yesterday? Of course the mother was angry yesterday, but only on a superficial level. On a deeper level, ben kach u ben kach bonai heim. It doesn't make a difference how the child behaves. Whether the child behaves in such a way or whether the child behaves in a different way, they are my children. There is this deep internal connection that there is between us. And it's this deep connection and this internal connection that we want to, during the entire month of Tishrei, it's a process in actualizing and making more relevant and making more pertinent in my life this deeper connection that there is. They tell a story. There's in America, there's a rabbi called Rabbi Mendel Lieberman. Rabbi Mendel Lieberman used to be the rabbi of Columbia University. A rabbi, a student of Yeshiva University, a very learned person and a very fine man. In any case, this was in 1999. And Bill Clinton, now they're once again in the news, but Bill Clinton was then the president of the United States. And he was going through a very difficult time in his, I'm sure everybody remembers, in his presidency. And he came to Cincinnati, and there he wanted to meet, and he wanted to meet with religious leaders. A rabbi, a galach, a Protestant, a whole bunch of, and this Rabbi Mendel Lieberman, he was selected to be the religious leader. And he was thinking, he's going to have just 2 seconds to say hello to the president and listen, maybe say something. And he wanted to say something that would leave a impression on the president. And he was the president, President Clinton. Any case. And he says he was thinking what he's going to say. Prepared himself. He's going to say like this, say like that, say like this, say like that. And okay, he prepared himself. And he comes there, and President Clinton comes. You could look online, you could see the story, and you could see the picture of him together with President Clinton, and you could see the letter even that President Clinton wrote to him afterwards. And when President Clinton goes by him, this Rabbi Pali says, President Clinton, I think you have to do tshuva. You have to do tshuva. All right? And he was prepared that President Clinton would say, what does tshuva mean? He prepared. So President Clinton looks at him and says, tshuva? Oh, do you mean Rabbi Cook's tshuva? Or do you mean Rabbi Soloveitchik's tshuva? Wow, he wasn't prepared for that answer. Any case, he's the President of the United States. Any case, Rabbi Pali knew what the answer. He said, I mean Rabbi Cook's tshuva. Why? What's the difference between Rabbi Cook's tshuva and Rabbi Soloveitchik's tshuva? Oh, in order to understand the difference between Rabbi Cook's tshuva and Rabbi Soloveitchik's tshuva, we have to know who Rabbi Soloveitchik is and who Rabbi Cook is, because it depends very much on their perspective, their upbringing. Rabbi Soloveitchik, I don't know if you know, he's the grandson from the Brisker dynasty. The Brisker dynasty means a very, very Lithuanian perspective on what tshuva, what return is all about. And in the world of Lithuanian perspective of what tshuva is that you dwell and you think about the sin that you have committed, and you think about how terrible the sin is that you have committed, and that you have to try to find another path, and you have to try to leave that what you've, how you've acted, and find another and find another way, another direction. This is Rabbi Soloveitchik's perspective of tshuva, and this is pretty much the standard of what there is in the world at large. And this comes from Rabbi Soloveitchik. This is education that, even though he did have a Pesach Chabad Malamed, a Hasidic Malamed when he was a little boy, but as a whole, his entire upbringing and education was the Lithuanian style. Rabbi Kook, he had another perspective. He was already very, very much influenced by Chassidus. His grandfather was a Chabad rabbi. His mother also made sure by his bris that he should put on the tzad, the yarmulke of the Tzemach Tzedek. And the Chassidus was very Chassidus, and the Chassidic approach was very instrumental in him when he formulated his understanding of what tshuva is. Tshuva, says Rabbi Kook, is every person has within him a very, very deep internal source of goodness. And this goodness that is found within him can never be tainted, can never be hurt, can never be changed. And the person has to try to find this goodness within him, and he has to strive and try to find his real self, who he really is, this internal self that is found within him. This is how Rabbi Kook looks at tshuva, whether it's running away from the sin or whether trying to find your real self. So he asks Rabbi Paley, and he says, which tshuva, Rabbi Kook's tshuva or Rabbi Soloveitchik's tshuva? So Rabbi Paley says, Rabbi Kook's tshuva. So Mr. Clinton says, that's very interesting. Most people tell me to follow Rabbi Soloveitchik's tshuva. When we finish here, let's talk. And after they finished the whole conference, so they sat and talked, and he sent them a letter and this, and started a little bit of a relationship. That's the story. That's what tshuva in the secret of Tishrei is all about. It's all a process in trying to find this deep internal goodness that there is found within you. And perhaps it is expressed in all of the holidays that we have during the month of Tishrei. But perhaps we can find it in one of the strangest and most unique customs that we have during the month of Tishrei. Are you familiar with Hoshana Rabbah? Hoshana Rabbah, we have a very strange custom. After we say Yeshanos, and we take the Yeshanos and we beat them on the ground 5 times, what do we do with the Hoshana? What do we do with it? We throw it on top of the Aron Kodesh. Are you familiar with the custom? Yeah? Go today. I live in Alexander now because it's near my father's home. So you can see on top of the Aron Kodesh, there's still the Yeshanos are there. But that's the custom. And the question is, where does this strange custom from? If you're looking for a garbage, no, on top of the Aron Kodesh should be a garbage. You can find the garbage someplace else. But what is something holy? If it's something holy, we should put it into the Aron Kodesh. Why on top of the Aron Kodesh? What lies behind this very, very strange custom? Perhaps sometimes in this custom we can see the big secrets that there are in and where the month of Tishrei wants to take us. And let's try to understand it like this. Are we familiar with the Medrash? The Medrash tells us that each one of the 4 kinds that we take during Sukkot represents a different type of Jew. Right? We have the esrog that has a good smell and a good taste that reflects the Jew. That he has a good, that he has Torah study and does good deeds. Then we have the lulav that has a good taste but has no smell. That's somebody who has Torah study but he hasn't done any good deeds. And then we have the Hadas. The Hadas, he has a good smell. The smell invigorates the entire area. So that's good deeds. But he doesn't have a taste, doesn't have Torah study, a tam. When somebody studies something, he has when somebody knows the reason why he does something, it gives him a tom, it gives him a flavor, it gives him some reason why he should do what he should do. And then we have the arava. The arava is the willow and has no taste and no smell. That's the Jew that has no Torah and no good deeds. There's no good deeds. And this is what the Medrash tells us. Okay, Varvinachal Elu Yisrael Ein bo lo tam ve'ein bo reach kachem Yisrael she'ein behem loy teira ve'loy meisim teivim. So Ma'aseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does the Eibishter do? So he says, la'avdam, to lose them, to destroy them, efsher. Ela HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ela Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Yukshru kulam aguda achas, let all of these different types of Jews, let them all tie one to the other. V'hei mechaprim elu al elu. And these will cause forgiveness, these for these. What does it mean, these will cause forgiveness, these will give? Who will forgive for who? Who will be mechaper for whom? Well, superficially, people understand the Esrei. It has also Torah study, and there's also good deeds. He'll be mechaper, he'll forgive for the arava that has no good deeds and no Torah study. But that's not what the Medrash says. The Medrash says, Yechapru elu al elu. These will make up for what's lacking in these. There's something there in that arava. There's something over there that we don't find by the lulav and esrei and the hadas. The arava, if we take the arava, what does the arava teach us? The arava teaches us that the real reason that we take the esrei, even though he has all of his Torah studies, and even though he has all of his good deeds, we take him not because of his good deeds, and not because of his Torah studies. But why do we take the esrei? Because of his essence, because of what he is. Because if we would take him because of equality, we would not take the arava. The arava is taken. Without arava, we are not complete. Without arava, we don't have a Jewish people. Without an arava, we don't fulfill a mitzvah. What does the arava have? The arava has no good deeds and no Torah study. Oh, but these are only superficial qualities that are found within the arava. The arava we take, the arava for itself, for what it is be'etzem. Even if he has no good deeds, and even he has no Torah study. Now the halacha is that the arava that we take for Rosh Hashanah, for Sukkot, we have to take two aravas. We have to take two branches. And on each one of these branches, in order for it to be kosher, it has to have at least 3 leaves. But on Hoshana Rabbah, it's enough to take 1 branch with 1 leaf, my friends. You can't get more arava than that. You can't get emptier than that. 1 branch with 1 leaf. And nevertheless, we see something very strange. We have a rule, lo adu rosh. Are we familiar with that rule? Rosh Hashanah cannot fall out on the days of adu. Adu, Aleph is Sunday, Dalet is Wednesday, and Vav is Thursday. Dalet and Vav, Wednesday and Thursday, Rosh Hashanah can't fall out. Why? Because then Yom Kippur is going to come out to be Friday or Sunday. And then we're going to have 2 days that we're not allowed to do any work on. So then the rabbis enacted, never can Rosh Hashanah fall out to be on Wednesday or Friday, because then Yom Kippur and Shabbos are going to be 1 day after the other, and if Chas v'Shalom somebody dies, 2 days without being able to take care of him is going to be terrible. The vegetables, they didn't have refrigerators then, the vegetables and the food will all go bad. It's impossible to deal with it. But why can't Rosh Hashanah fall out on Sunday? Why can't Rosh Hashanah fall out on Sunday? So the Gemara tells us, the Gemara in Yerushalmi tells us, because then Hoshana Rabbah is going to fall out on Shabbos. And better that Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot should fall out to be on Hoshana on Shabbos, but we have to make sure that Hoshana Rabbah does not fall out on Shabbos. And the question is why? Rosh Hashanah we have to blow shofar. Blowing shofar is a mitzvah that it says in the Torah. To take the lulav and esrog on the first day of Sukkot is a mitzvah from the Torah. It's a divine commandment. To take the arava and to shake it and to beat it is only minig. We don't even make a bracha on it. It's not even a mitzvah that Rabbanan. It's only a minig and only a custom. But nevertheless, the rabbi said, make sure that Rosh Hashanah should fall out on Shabbos, Sukkot will fall out on Shabbos, but don't let Hoshana Rabbah fall out on Shabbos. What's the secret of Hoshana Rabbah? And the secret lies in this, that we take the aravas and we throw them on top of the Aron Kodesh. What's the secret? Why do we have such a strange custom? And we'll try to keep it brief and try to understand what it is. But that's how we can understand how everything is about. When we had the Beis HaMikdash, the Kohen HaGadol, once a year on Yom Kippur, would go into the Kodesh HaKodeshim, the Holy of Holies. And what would we do on the Holy of Holies on that day? He went in twice. And each time he took blood of an offering and threw it on the kaporet. This is what the Torah tells us. V'lokach midam hapor, v'yizo be'etzvoi al pnei hakaporet, v'lifnei hakaporet, and then he takes the dam ha'so'ir, and he also sprinkles it on the kaporet. What's the kaporet? Do we know what the kaporet is? The kaporet is the cover of the Aron HaKodesh. The cover of the Aron HaKodesh, the Torah tells us, that how should we make Vasu Aron? You have to make the Aron. And then you have to make a kaporet. Vasisa kaporet zov tar. You should make this kaporet out of pure gold. Vasisa shnei kruvim zov mikshe taseh oisa mishnei tzoisa kapores. On top of the kapores, we made two kruvim. Kruvim, cherubs. Do we know what the kruvim are? Yes? Okay. On top of the Aron HaKodesh, there were two kruvim. One in the form of a male, one in the form of a female. They represented the relationship that there is between Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. Okay. That's the Yom Kippur. The Kohen HaGadol, once a year, usually would throw blood on the Mizbeah or on the Paroches. Once a year, he would go into the Holy of Holies and throw the blood where? On the kaporet. Why? What's this all about? What's this all about? So we can understand it like this. In Zohar it tells us that Yisro, Oraisa, that's the Torah, the Kuchubrechu, that is the Jewish people, the Torah, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, is klas shorem miskashrim do bedo. There are three knots that tie these three things together. Yisrael, the Jewish people, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But let me ask you, my friends, if we have three things, and we want to tie all three together, how many knots do I need to tie them together? 1, 2. Why does the Zohar tell me that we have 3 knots that tie them all together? Why do we have 3 knots that tie them all together? Because they aren't only tied Yisrael to the Torah and the Torah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it's like a segel. It's Yisrael, the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and also the HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Yisrael. Each one is tied to each other. When the Jewish people made the golden calf, and Moshe Rabbeinu comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, Inti sarchatosam, if you will carry their sin, is good, right? This, interestingly enough, is Posuk Lamed Beis of Perek Lamed Beis. It's Leiv Libo. It's the heart of the heart of the entire Torah is expressed within this Posuk. Va'aton now, in Tisach HaTosam, if you're going to forgive the Jewish people, is good. B'ma'ayin, if you're not going to forgive the Jewish people, Mecheini no misifrecha asher kasafta. Erase me from the book that you have written. Are we familiar with this pasuk? So what's Moshe Rabbeinu doing here? He's giving an ultimatum to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's scaring the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's threatening the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's Moshe Rabbeinu doing over here? What's he telling the Eibishter? If you're not going to forgive the Jewish people, then take me out of your book. Is this what he's doing? No. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling the Eibishter. He says, listen, the Eibishter, you're telling me that the Jewish people transgressed on what it says in the Torah? You're telling me that the Jewish people transgressed on what it says in the Torah? If you can't forgive them on what it says in the Torah, take me out of the Sefer Torah that you have written, and let the connection be a direct connection. Let it be a connection like it is between the Shtei Kruvim. We said it's like a segel. In other words, if you don't have us in the Torah, wow, let us have a direct connection. And that connection between the Jewish people and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why on Yom Kippur, what did the Kohen Gadol do? He says, no. There's sometimes the relationship transcends action. It's not something, it's not an action, it's not a relationship that we have through the Torah. It's a much deeper relationship, it's a much greater relationship, it's a much richer relationship, it's a direct relationship that the Jewish people have. And that's why the Arava, who has only one leaf, Ba'ad Echad, Ole Echad. Where is his connection to the Eibishter? He has no Torah. He has no good deeds. Where is his relationship from? Oh, on top of the Aron. Only from the Kruvim. It's a direct relationship that this Arava has. And we have to know that within each and every one of us, we have a bit of every one of the four kinds. There's certain areas that we could be in like an Esrei, but there's certain areas that we could be like a Arava. There's certain things that perhaps that are important to us like a Lulav, but certain things that could be Hadas. But we always have to know that there's this Arava that is found within us. And this Arava, we should know, is also never not connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's in Frankfurt, there's a big community shul. I don't know if you've ever been there. But recently, there was a person called Moshe Erlinger. And he was in Eretz Yisrael for Rosh Hashanah, and he very much wanted to get back. He lived in California. Very wanted to get much back to his shul in California for Yom Kippur. And he made all the preparations. He had to be in Eretz Yisrael for business. Any case, he was in Eretz Yisrael, and he did his business, and he was on his way back, and all of a sudden there was different problems with this ticket and rerouting, and he had to go through Germany in order to get to America. Comes out, he lands, the plane lands late, he is stuck in Frankfurt for Yom Kippur. Okay, goes ahead and he finds himself a hotel not far from the shul, and he feels very uncomfortable. He doesn't have his Yom Kippur clothing. He comes with his slippers that they gave him in the hotel. This is how he comes to the shul. His talis he has, obviously, but he doesn't have his regular Yom Kippur clothing, and he doesn't know, and he's not used to the davening, and he doesn't have them. In any case, he comes to shul over there, and the people find him a seat and sit down, and he's not expecting to be moved by the davening. In any case, after davening, Kol Nidre at night, he is so moved. There was a chazan over there. The name of the chazan is Tzudi Greenwald. I don't know if you heard of him or you know him. In any case, he's the chazan, and he davens, and after davening, he goes over to Reb Tzudik, he comes over to the chazan, and he says, wow, Kol Nidre, like you davened over here, I haven't heard, I never heard so moving, so crying, how you took the entire community, 1,000 people davening here over here in this shul. How did you daven like this? And so Tzaddik says, I'll tell you this story. It happened a few years ago. It happened once. I'm here, the Chazan, already for quite a few years here on Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and it was already after Yom Kippur, and I already folded up my kittel and my Chazan's gown and the hat and the talis and this, and everybody from the shul already left, and I'm also parched, and I want to go home to eat something. And I go out of the shul, out of the side door. The front door is already locked. I'm going on the side door. And I go out of the shul, and all of a sudden I meet an elderly gentleman, 60, 65, 70 years old. It's not so elderly for me anymore. It's an elderly gentleman. And he says, why the door is locked? Isn't tonight Kol Nidre? Where's everybody for Kol Nidre? So he tells him, listen, Kol Nidre was last night, not tonight. And the Yid says, what? Kol Nidre was last night? I missed Kol Nidre? Oi, I promised my father 40 years ago that I would always go to shul for Kol Nidre. Oi, vey, what's going to be with me? And the Yid burst out crying. And he cries, oh, he forsake the Jewish people. He says he doesn't do anything. Only thing he does, come to shul for Kol Nidre. But this is his whole connection to the Jewish people. What it do? What's going to be? What's not? So Reb Tzaddik Greenwald hears this man crying, and he cries about his father and his mother and this. So he says, okay, you know what? Come to shul. Say for you again, Kol Nidre. And he takes... And he says he was just waiting to go home. There's a big shul for 1,000 people. He turns on a couple of the lights, and he sits the Jew down, and he sits him down, puts on again his kittel and his hat, and his talis, and this. And he starts saying Kol Nidre. And he says Kol Nidre like that. It was only me, the Eibishter, and this Jew. And I said, such a Kol Nidre. Such a Kol Nidre. And every year, when I daven Yom Kippur, I think about that Kol Nidre. And that's what moves me. That's what moves me. That's this direct connection that there is. Doesn't make a difference what you do. You know, for example, Sukkot is called a mitzvah kala. Do you know why Sukkot is called a mitzvah kala? In halacha it says because it doesn't cost any money. Because Sukkot, how could you do the mitzvah if you drink Coca-Cola? Is drinking Coca-Cola a mitzvah? Oh, but in a Sukkot it's a mitzvah. To eat cake and cookies and to play chess, is that a mitzvah? It's usually not a mitzvah, but you do it in a Sukkot, it's a mitzvah. Mitzvah Maloshan comes from the word safta, tzevet, attachment, bringing an attachment between the Jewish people and the Eibishter. It's easy to make an attachment. Why? Because when you love somebody, it doesn't make a difference what you do, it's with who you do it. When you were a young couple, right, your husband tells you, let's go out. He said, all right, should we go to this restaurant or that restaurant? Should we go to the zoo or should we go for a walk? He says, it doesn't make a difference. Let's just go out. Why? Because it doesn't make a difference what you do. It's with who you do it. Sukkot, this very deep connection in relationship, direct relationship that supersedes and is above all action, all action, good deeds or bad deeds. That's what's revealed during the month of Tishrei. For example, they tell the story about this boy. He had problems in school, at home, and somebody started out with him. The home wasn't so bad. In any case, he was 16 years old. He ran away from home. He went to Tel Aviv, and afterwards in Tel Aviv, went to Eilat, and then he went to Australia, and then he went to India. In any case, he wasn't home for 6 years. One day, knocks at the door and just walks into the house. And his father says, "Oi, you should have just wraps him around." And hugs him and didn't see him for 6 years. And his mother, also hugs him and cries. And Moshe finally came home. And they're sitting around the table, talking. And all of a sudden the mother comes and brings from the kitchen these cinnamon cookies with sugar on top. The cookies that Moshe just loved. These are the cookies, his favorite cookies all the years. Wow, and his brother brings these fresh cookies and she puts them just straight from the oven, puts them on the table, and he eats these cookies. Oh, and he's so happy. And he's talking. After a couple of minutes, he says, Mommy, how did you know that I was going to come today, that you prepared for me these cookies? How did you know that I was going to come today? His mother tells him, what do you think? Every day I prepared these cookies. Every single day, from the day that you left, I prepared for you these cookies. We have to know that the Eibishter prepares for each and every one of us cookies. Every single day. He's waiting for every single one of us. He wants to have this very, very deep connection to every and every single one of us. And that's the secret of Zion Cheshvan. Zion Cheshvan, the Torah tells us that what? Why do we start saying the same Talmud on Zion Cheshvan? Because Achi Hiu Achron Shebi Yisrael. What is Achron Shebi Yisrael? The Jew that is the furthest from the Beis Hamikdash. Not only physically far, but also the Jew that is spiritually far. There are certain Jews that live just a stone throw from the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash is very involved and very much part of their life. But even this Jew that lives very, very far, even for him, we have to wait. Even for him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting for him to bring about rain. Because we know, dew is something that is there constantly. We know, how is dew formed? Dew is formed here. It comes from above. The moment that at night it's cold, by day it warms up, all of a sudden dew is formed. Rain, how do we have rain? Rain, in order for it to rain, the water has to condense from the bottom up, and then after it condenses from the bottom up, it could come once again down. Rain is a result of our actions. Yontif, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us plenty of dew, gives us plenty of blessing, gives us plenty of life, gives us plenty of water. Rain, that means that we're now entering the winter. Tishrei, we had a wonderful time. Now is the time for us to begin our work, to deal with Cheshvan, day-to-day, gritty, nitty-gritty that we have in our life, to do each mitzvah, to do every action, and that will bring about the relationship that we have with the Eibishter. And even Achron Shebi Yisrael, even this person that we think is the Arava, that he has no good deeds, he is the Harava of Shana Rabbah. Even he has these good deeds that he can do. Bring about this relationship. Hashem is waiting for us. And Emerz Hashem, we will do what we have to do during the month of Cheshvan. We will merit the building of the Beis Hamikdash spiritually in our days. Amen.